Welcome. Happy New Year. Feliz Año Nuevo. This is your brother from another mother saying happy 2025. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with you all, to be able to share insights with you, to go into the new year and to discover all things mental, emotional, relationship, health. It is a delight to be back after a Christmas, New Year's break. We do a break around that time, every time this time of year. How many times do I say it? That many times around this time, at this time of year? Anyway, it's great to have you all here that are in the live chat, both in YouTube and in Rumble. I'll give you shout outs in just a moment. My lovely, amazing, gorgeous, stupendous, spectacular wife, Melissa, is actually not going to be with me here tonight. She is not feeling well today, and I'll get a little bit into that. You might hear a little bit of congestion. I still got some congestion going on here, so my voice is not 100%. And we had some time away, which was wonderful, and had some time to recalibrate. And we spent some time down in Florida. All those of you in Florida, any Floridians here, give me some shout outs. And the week of Christmas, we were there in Florida, and towards the end, I started to get sick. And fortunately, it just moved into a head cold, didn't move to anything else. No one else was sick on the trip. But then when I got home, my wife got it. And she had just, those of you that have been watching the live, you know she'd been dealing with a bad cough. And it was just lingering. And then she got over it, was making great strides. And then about 4 days ago, I think now she's back into congestion. So we were in here in the studio, actually, both of us going, all right, we're going to do this. And we're going to do the live. And she got her headphones on. And I looked at her and I said, hun, why don't you take the night off? And she felt terrible because she wanted to be here with you all today. So she is resting on the couch. And although I do believe she has her laptop out, and she'll interact with you guys in the comment section, but you know how it is. It's just too much. And that's the beauty about doing what we do, is that we can go, okay, not feeling great right now. I'll take it. I'll take the questions. We'll come back next weekend and we'll do it again. So there's no pressure to have to be something or have to be on and all those kinds of things. So thank you so much for your understanding in that. I look forward to getting into a bunch of these questions. You'll have to excuse a little bit of the congestion you may hear in my voice as I'm recovering from whatever is going around in the stratosphere, in the atmosphere, as it does seem like there are many respiratory kind of things going on. And hope that you are healthy and experiencing health in your life. If you're having a heaven of a day, that's great. If you're not, then you've arrived at a great place, because hopefully some of the insights here we can bring will be a blessing to your life and your journey. I am all about mental, emotional, and relationship health, and if you are too, you have arrived at a great place. 2025 is going to be a fantastic year. I'm excited about what's ahead. If you're not on my email list, be sure to go to markdejesus.com. You can sign up for our email list. You'll get a free book, Experiencing God's Love as Your Father, which is one of the books I've published, but you can get a free digital version of it by just signing up for our email list. And there's a few emails that will come out to you at first just to get to know your battle and your journey, get to know me. But for the most part, I send one email out a week. I'm pretty low maintenance. So I'm not one of these that's just going to spam your inbox and just overload you with all kinds of emails. But I do want to keep you posted. Anyway, last night I sent out an email about how I come up with the topics that I talk about, how I come up with the subjects I get into, how I look at the year. And yesterday, Saturday, was a day that I set aside. I call it Vision Day, meaning that I sit at my computer and I have a conversation with God, meaning I say, God, I give this year to you, what I talk about to you. And then I go through a process of just going through my notes, going through my files, and looking at what do I want to focus on. And I put a little bit of that in the email, so you can check that out. And I'm going to tell you a little bit tell you what's coming up here today. I'm going to first tell you some things about where I'm going to be going this year. Number two, I'm going to tell you a little bit our time away, and I'm going to tell you a story about traumatic claustrophobia and what happened to me and how it impacted me and what I did as an encouragement to your life and your journey. And then I'm going to dive into questions. Now, going into the new year, as I closed out 2024, any questions that were not addressed from 2024, they just got tossed. And we started all over, which is great. However, even going into the new year, the inbox of questions got pretty stacked up. You guys don't play around. You like to send in questions. So I've gone through and I've got quite a few here. We'll see how far I go. A lot of them are theologically related. So we'll see how far I dive into those and how many tangents I take. We're going to have a little fun along the way. So anyways, let me get back to what I was talking about. In looking at 2025 and looking into the year, I sit down and I just kind of start I look at two things. I look at my documents, notes I have, things I'm learning, and then I look at my book projects. And as I wrote in the email, I have right now in the incubator about 8 to 10 books that could be focused in on, written. There's the scaffolding for the most part is there. And it just needs the work of getting the manuscript, ironing it out, getting it written out. But I'm not going to write 10 books in a year. I may come out with 2 this year. One definitely, maybe 2. And that's a lot. So you got to focus. You got to learn how to focus. And so for me and my journey, I've had to work on working through distraction, ADD kind of things, the pulling of my attention to all kinds of different things. I've had to learn how to guard that. So I talk a little bit about that process in the email. I went through my folders of topics and contents where I go in, I jot down some thoughts. I put together a little outline. I go, this kind of, we'll see. And I let it marinate. Many videos that I do today have been marinating for years. So it's just kind of how I work with things. And I counted when I was looking at, and I selected properties and how many files are in this. And Windows told me it was about 350 files of teaching material that I have there. And keep in mind too, that some of those files, I may click on one of them and that one document, for example, I have one document on trauma that has loads and loads and loads of potential video content that I worked on years ago as I was learning and growing in that area, letting myself learn and heal, helping other people. And so that's just one document. So anyways, I say all that to say, focus is really important in our life, in our journey. And we can get so easily distracted. I want to encourage you to practice in a loving and compassionate way, just redirecting your distractions back to the focus. Here's a question I would like to ask you for the comment section. Those of you that are in the live, and I'm going to say what's up to all of you and give my greetings to you all. I would like to ask you a question. What is your focus in this year, in the sense of what's God working on in your life? What's the theme? What's the topic, the subject that you're working through that is important as you move into this new year? Because I think that we live in a world of intense potential distractions. We've got these devices that are basically glued to us, called our phones that we carry, our tablets, our computers, not to mention relational distractions and all kinds of things going on. And so you can get easily pulled into a lot of different directions. And even in church, it can be easy to get pulled into the directions of where other people are going. You know, someone's like, I'm learning about the end times. You're like, yeah, maybe I need to learn about the end times. Someone's like, I've been in the season of learning about prayer and fasting. You're like, that's my problem. I need to learn that. You ever have that problem? I've had that problem. I go, maybe I need to do that. And I end up like chasing the whatever shiny thing is kind of yelling at me. And the principle that I teach in OCD about the gentle redirect is something that I practice in my day-to-day life to just continually nurture that. Mark, this is your focus. Here's your direction. And so I laid out in that email some of the topics I'm going to be getting into this year. I have a book that I'll be coming out with on relationship OCD. I felt to expand on that a bit more and have a book just on that topic. I have a whole file here of just relationship OCD questions. So I'll probably do another Q&A just on that. But there's a lot of content that comes in. I mean, a lot of questions that comes in around that content. I also have a book on the Christian perfectionist that I have been deep into the ins and outs of working on that. So those are two big things happening this year. I also feel that I want to get into the subject of trauma, get into the subjects like PTSD, complex trauma, things like that. I want to, which may dovetail into me talking some more about spiritual abuse, a topic I'm very familiar with, have done a lot of work in, and one that I want to bring balanced perspectives to and what the healing journey of that looks like. I also know that there's a lot of theological hangups that hinder people in their mental health journey. And some I'll dive into and try to be a help to as a brother from another mother to bring some guidance. In fact, a lot of questions today center around theological triggers that people spin in and get spun out. But anyways, I'd like to see what are some of the things that are your focus. Okay. So I'm gonna glance. In fact, I'm gonna take these questions, put them over here so I can see them easier. And in fact, let me just say hello to everybody as best I can. Lori Livingston. Lori, what's going on? Good to see you. John, Prissa, HS, Pink Wolf, Owl City. Adrian! Lucas the Prussian, I salute you. Sabrina Silva, Cindy, Denise Smith, Alexandria Collins, Emmanuel, Lindsey Graham, welcome. Josui, sorry if I said your name wrong. David Jenkins, Happy New Year from Chinatown. Don't mind me if I have to use a tissue every now and then. Pearl Soares, Saved by Grace. Estelle, I got to say it like my wife. Lovely, lovely Estelle. That's your name now. You're stuck with it. Natasha, Rose, hello. Boris, welcome to this broadcast. Joshua Miller and Marty, great to see you here in the comments section. Sonny, does anyone know what time this live starts? Well, Sonny, it's happening right now. Let's see. My wife is there. Awesome. EC, Megan, what's going on? Mark Van Heerden, Cape Town, what's going on? Mark, I need to know how to say your last name because it looks like it says Heerden, Van Heerden. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but Dennis Muck, I think. I'm not sure. Brendan Smith, MSM, Joshua Seamus, Sarah, Pam, C, Kenzie, Rachel, what's going on? Rachel Grace. Isn't that great to have a name Grace in your name? Andrea Suhorn, Maria, I'm repeating some names. Daniel, oh, Happy New Year, Danielle. And let's see, some repeats of names. Avery. And I think I am Kaya. I think I've caught most of you here. Anyways, I want to go back through some of the stuff you're saying. My wife's got her immune tea and Vicks. Yes. Yeah, pray for her that her recovery will be swift so we can be back next Sunday. And looking forward to that. Slippery elm. You have slippery elm when you feel sick, Alexandria. Okay. And let's see here. I'm trying to get to the comment. Okay, consistency and patience. MSM says that's the theme. Alexandria Collins says patience, which is awesome. It's very biblical because it says if you have patience, there's nothing you lack when you let patience have its perfect work. And patience is an extension of God's love because love is patient. It ties into perseverance too, so it's awesome. Trust. Okay, trust and love. Identity in Christ. Experiencing the Father's love. Dealing with my OCD. I see you there, Theodore 14, or Theodore. Somebody wrote, I have no idea. That's all right. If you have no idea, here's what I recommend. Go to my topics page. I have an online resource library. Go to my topics page and markdehasius.com/topics. If you're struggling with where you're at or what is the theme you need to pay attention to, go to the topic there, heart healing and freedom. Heart healing and freedom.
I said heart healing and freedom. Did y'all hear me?
Go there, and right at the top it says start here. Listen to those 3 audios that I have there. Take notes on them. See what bubbles up. And that can help you into the new year. Walking through my fears instead of running from them. Awesome. Grace, peace, direction. Loving myself. Trauma issues as an adult child. Reparenting with the love of the Father. Awesome, Danielle. Being patient as I heal, embracing God's love. Positive self-talk. Living in the present moment. Understanding God's love deeper and loving others. Also trust. And my comment section just went. It does that every now and then. Or just all of a sudden. Crushing the victim mentality. Lori, high five. That's awesome. It has been a crushing 4 years. Don't understand the purpose. Rocks. I pray that through the teachings, you'll find some help and some insight. Seeking unity. Stop living in the past, realizing the present moment is all we have. My past can make me depressed. Living in the present, being still in his presence. My past can make me depressed, and the future can make me anxious. Understood. Just joining the live. Happy New Year. Oh, Telly, what's going on? Speaking of Telly, I'm going to tell a story about being down at Disney. Have you seen this character, Telly, that does he's an elf. He does this thing with the naughty and nice. I got stuck in this thing where I just kept watching shorts of him. You look it up. Telly the elf, or Tally. It might be Tally. And it's this southern guy who just yells at people. He looks at a clipboard and he's like, naughty. It just made me laugh. Yeah, I didn't see it when I was down there, but I think I was at the wrong park. Anyways, Disney story coming soon. I'll tell you in a minute. Need to learn God's love for me, not to hate myself, learning to forgive people who hurt me, forgiving myself. Right on. Anna's toy review. You review toys, Anna? Is that what you do? You have like a YouTube channel with that? That'd be kind of fun, right? Like today, I'm going to unbox a Transformer. Zachary Coffee's gonna decaf season is upon us, or caffeinated, whichever you prefer. That's what comes along with having a name coffee. It's emotional sobriety. Serena, fantastic. That's a good word. MILKIYYYY with asterisks. I'm not sure how to say it. Anyways, I'm glad you like the Russian voice. It's one I like to pull out from time to time. It depends on what kind of curriculum we're going through and the topic at hand. Let's see, any other things? Grace, awesome. Jennifer Moore, thank you for your kind words. Appreciate that. Awesome. So be sure to, if you have a question you'd like me to address in today's live, you can go over to the super chat and you can put that in, and I'll do my best to pay attention to that. My wife will also, I know she's watching as well too. So I'm going to go over to Rumble. Courtney Laws. Welcome, Courtney Laws. Fit Lion. And Abby Ploop. And RRB0515. I should probably say
RRB0515. Welcome to this broadcast. It's fantastic to have you. I pray the data that is presented in the dissertations and the theological ramblings of Mr. Mark of Jesus will be a blessing to your life and your journey.
Katie96, what's going on? And I think I've got you guys there. And don't you worry, Rumble. Don't give in to rejection if you think I'm forgetting about you. I have not. But this is a one-person thing going on today. So I'm going to do my best. Anyways, that was great to hear some of the things that you all are feeling like you're going into in the new year. So I'm going to get in questions. I'm going to tell you my story. And then after that, I'm going to get into some questions. There's a question about confusion over dying to self. Is this a true desire from God, or is this an obsession? My body feels disgusting. How about that? And confusion over where Jesus said, be perfect. And that's all I'll say for now. Because then I commit to something, and then you guys are like, wait, you didn't get to that. You didn't get to that one that you mentioned you were going to get to. Okay, so again, if you want to send in some questions, maybe I'll check the inbox and see if it's something I can cover now. But if you want to send it through my website, you can do that. It'll probably be considered for future broadcasts. markdejesus.com/questions is where you can go for that. Of course, I am the author of the book, The OCD Healing Journey. If you've not gotten it, get a copy of this, give it to your friends, hand it out, let people know that this is a battle many Christians have, and we need help. And I've dedicated my life and my journey to helping people in mental, emotional, relationship health. And OCD is a topic that I am very, very well acquainted with and know lots of the ins and outs of it, have gone through it, and have spent so much of my journey helping others through that. So let me take a moment to share with you a little story about fear, claustrophobia, and a somewhat traumatic kind of experience. Okay. The week of Christmas, my wife and I decided we were going to go spend some time in Florida again. We did it a few years back. And when it comes to holidays, a lot of times my wife and I are like, let's change it up. We told you about Thanksgiving. We changed it up. We told some family, hey, why don't we go out to eat for Thanksgiving? Just did it different. When it came to Christmas time this year, we were thinking about what do we want to do on the break? We had a lot going on this year. We're dealing with a lot of things, a lot of stuff going on. And what would be restful for us? And so we thought about going to Orlando and say, let's do some of the park things and see what we can do there. So we made a plan to the week of Christmas, we would be in Orlando, we'd go see the parks, do all that. And on Christmas Day, we would go to Epcot Center. That's what we decided we were going to do. Years ago, we did the Magic Kingdom thing, and it was okay. It was all right. It wasn't really that. In fact, a lot of the Magic Kingdom, I hadn't been there since I was about 8 years old. And to be honest, a lot of it was the same as when I was 8 years old. So anyway, so we had a discussion with our son, Max, and said, Max, what do you think? Because he has an aversion to theme parks, to mascots, to lots of crowds and music and all the hustle and bustle that goes on with it. And we tried it one time with him, went to parks, and it wasn't a great experience for him. It was really, really tough. Really, really tough. So we had a conversation with him and said, Max, what do you think, man? We don't want to force this on you. What do you want to do? And we talked about it, prayed about it, sat around the dinner table, had a lot of discussion. And he said, you know what? I would be happy if I just stayed at home with Nani and Auntie. And I'm going to go be with them for the week, and you guys go. And so we all came to an agreement. So, okay, so he stayed here and did some things with family here. And so Melissa and I took Abby, and we took our niece, who came along with, and we had a great week. Again, I got sick towards the end because it was a little rough for me towards the end. But I want to tell you a little story about Christmas Day. We arrive at Epcot Center. Now, I remember going to Epcot. Like I said, I was maybe 8 years old. I don't even know. So I had no idea what to expect. We're trying to plan the day. What does it look like to go through it? We were going to try to stay as late as we could to see any fireworks or things like that. And we got into the park, and for a bunch of reasons, we just found ourselves flustered. It wasn't super overcrowded, but we just found ourselves just not getting acclimated. Where are things? Where should we go? There's so many stops, and Epcot Center is like set up with a lot of countries. And I was really keen on checking that out because I love culture. I love learning about countries. I love learning about history. I'm fascinated with this. I was like, oh, I'd like to check out. They got France, and they got Italy, and they got this and that, Mexico and China and all this stuff, right? But we found ourselves being overwhelmed. So we said, all right, all this ride. Now, I am not a rides person. I don't look forward to it. I'm not excited about it. But if I'm with you, if I'm with family and you go, I want to go on this ride, I will go on it. Do you know why? Because I know at some point the ride is going to end. So I can do a roller coaster, get a little nauseous, whatever. I get dizzy very easily. I always have. My dad has the same problem. So if you get me spinning out, I might have to close my eyes a little bit because I'll get disoriented. And but I'll do it for love, for your love and enjoyment of it. So we were looking around, and there's rides that are like, basically, some of them you could be waiting in line for like 2 hours. One of them was this Guardians of the Galaxy ride. The ride's crazy. It's just crazy. I think whoever came up with that ride was on an LSD trip, to be honest. And if you've ever been on it. But anyways, before I get to that ride, we were just trying to find out where to get started. So we looked over, and there was, it's funny. I don't even remember the name of the ride. Honey, if you're in the chat, can you text me what was the name of the ride that we went on that I'm telling the story about? It was Space Shuttle something, right? Or Spacecraft something. And then there was 2 rides. One was to go to Mars, and one was green, like for Earth. Okay. So again, I don't remember the name of it. Some of you Disney nerds might know. Do any of you Disney nerds know what ride I'm talking about? Mission Earth. Thank you. That's what it was. There was Mission Mars, Mission Earth. So you could tell it was kind of old. As you're walking through Epcot, there's a lot of it where you go, this looks like in the 1980s when they were thinking about the future. It still kind of felt that way. But, when the girls are there, we're like, they want to be on rides. We're going to do this. So we go in, and the Mission Earth ride, we get in line. It was short. It said 15 minutes. So we said, you know what? This is just get things started. Then we can kind of walk around and see how the day goes. But we were a bit flustered. Our maps, they gave you you go in the app online and it wasn't working. It was fussing. It was just like, to have Wi-Fi. I felt like an old man. I was like, I go and ask, where's the paper maps? And I want to walk around like this. And I want to, do this. I still have that aspect of me. So we get in line and we move in somewhat rather quickly. Now, let me pause the story because we were in a park the day before, and we were on a train. And a weird thing happened when we were on this train where we get into this booth, and it was just a train ride, like an actual train. Like you go inside and it's a booth, you close the door. And we're sitting there, and there was another couple that was there. We were just kind of small talking. And I just had this weird feeling like something's wrong, because it was just quiet. Nothing was happening. And all of a sudden we hear over the intercom, we're going to have to ask you all to leave. We're so sorry. We're going to have another train come in. We're having technical problems. Oh, okay, fine. We get off from it. Okay, I'm telling you that because that experience came up into what was just about to happen. So we're at Mission Earth, or whatever it's called. And I don't even know what this is. Just some kind of ride. So we walk into this room, and you can see there's a bunch of capsules that are all in this room. And okay, you're getting in those things. They're going to strap you in, go in. You're going to do some space shuttle launch, that kind of thing, right? I go in. I don't know about any of this. What's to be expected. And so we walk in. The capsule opens up. It opens up like it's it's like a box, but just kind of opens itself up. Where the front half comes out, and you go in. We sit down, and the chair is tight. So I sit in, and the harness comes over, and the lady who put the harness on me, she took it and just went right here in my chest. So I'm sitting there like, oh. I'm like, okay, I get you want this thing firm on me and whatever. I'm like, are we going upside down or something? What's going on here? Then the front part, which was opened up like a mouth, so we enter in, there's a row of us sitting there. It closes in and it comes into where the screen, like if I'm sitting there, the screen is like right here. Okay. And the controls and the dash. There is no room and no space for any movement at all. And so far, I'm fine. Even though I just got the brace slammed on me like I was, being pushed against the wall. And I had a joystick or something, and I was looking at all the knobs, and they were like 1980 knobs, like those little click things. I'm like, So I was making jokes, pushing buttons, going where no man has gone before. I felt like I wanted to talk in like mid-Atlantic 1950s. Yeah, see, we're going to be taking off on and going to see the moon. Yeah. My daughter's sitting next to me. And there's no music. There's no one talking over the intercom. Nothing. And I've got a window right about here. It's tight. It's really tight. All of a sudden, I had the looming thought from the day before hit me of being in the train and something was wrong. And all of a sudden, a wave of fear hit my chest. And it was interesting because at times, if I have anxiety or have had a panic attack, it hits me right here. And then it travels up to my neck, right here. How many of you get that? And it just hit me like a wave, that feeling of something's wrong. Because we were sitting there for, it seemed like a while. No one said anything. There's no prep, no like 3, 2, 1. Okay, start your engines, nothing. We're just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. So it hits me so strong that this sense of like something is wrong and there's no way out of this and I'm stuck in it. My whole body reacted. So I start hitting the sidewall. And my wife goes, Mark, like she thought I was being funny. And I'm like, nope, I gotta go. I start hitting the sidewall. I gotta go. And I'm like, I'm not hearing anybody. I'm not hearing anything. And I can't move. There's not much room for my legs to move at all. I can barely move my arms because there's just nothing there. So all I can do is just this. I'm going. And my chest is it's like my heart is coming out of my chest. It's all just right here. I hear off in the distance. Now I wear hearing aids, so my hearing isn't that great anyways. I hear off in the distance, like through the wall of this capsule. I'm coming. And finally, they open it up. I get out of that thing and I'm like, like I was suffocating. I walk out and I go, I'm so sorry. Kind of, typical person who like an OCD or kind of like apologizing for something here. And she goes, no, it happens all the time. I look over and there's a bunch of people that I saw in line. I'm like, do y'all have an issue too? I think that what I was experiencing was contagious to my daughter, my niece, and my wife because they're like, we're out of here. We're out of here. This wave hit me and I went into an emotional tailspin. I went into a space of like, forget it. I'm done. I will sit the bench. I will gladly walk through this entire park, but that's it. I'm done. That's where my mind was. The tension in my chest was so intense. I was just doing slow breathing, just recalibrating myself. Because I'd never had an incident like that kind of claustrophobic kind of moment. I've had moments where like I was in an elevator too long, or I've been, where you're in a wrestling pile in high school and there's a bunch of guys, you're like, wait, get off. You have those kind of moments. This was really, really bizarre. So we walk out of there and I'm just discouraged, but I'm trying not to like put it on everybody. And I go, listen, you guys just do what you want to do. And I'll just follow you. But I think I'm all set for the day. I think I just need to chill. I'll carry your stuff for you, but you guys go on the rides. I'll just wait. Because I didn't know how I was going to get out of this. As we walk out, we're trying to figure out what to do next. We see this ride, Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, that movie is popular, and we hear all this stuff about it. We're like, this is like a 2 hour and something wait. It's like, my goodness. So we're like, I know the girls want to see that. We're trying to figure out what to do. And I'm like, well, you guys go ahead and I'll just wait. Out of nowhere, this very gentle, kind, I want to say I couldn't tell how old she was, but she was older. She had to be in her 60s. I'm going to guess. She'd been working at the park, I said, for 30 something years. Older black lady with a beautiful smile. And she's just going, can I help you guys? She's got this garbage picking thing, where it's almost like a cane, but you can go like this, and it has these grips. You can grab, paper and garbage and trash, and she's kind of using it as to lean on. And she's like, can I just help you guys? It looks like are you having difficulty? And so in my head, I'm like, difficulty? My goodness, this ride just rocked me. And I'm feeling in my head, I'm feeling kind of stupid right now because this 1980s ride just made me have a claustrophobic panic attack right now. And she's talking to us with such grace. There's a beautiful picture I experience in this, because in our fears, and I'm going to tell you what happened next. In our fears, we react, it happens, and the fear wants to condition us now into just avoidance. Forget it. I'm not doing that. Forget it. I'm not stepping out in that. I want you all in the new year to be aware of where fear becomes your narrator. Because in that moment, I became very overwhelmed with every aspect of fear, anxiousness, dread, all of it. I'm at an amusement park, so take it for what it's worth, but the example applies into real life. And she's standing there talking to us. She's like, are you interested in Guardians of the Galaxy ride? Now, my wife, it's too bad she's not here because she could tell her side of the story. She was concerned that she was going to have dizziness issues because she's got a bit of that herself. She's like, I don't know, but I've heard some things about this ride. And so she looks at me and she goes, would you guys like to go on? And this is my first reaction. Yeah, you guys go ahead. And she just looked at me with this gentle smile in the midst of my, Mach 3 level of anxiousness I'm still under. She just smiles. She goes, you sure? Are you sure? In that moment, I saw the picture of where we can be overcome with fear and fear's hitting us, but grace shows up to take the next step. Because I felt this pull to go, you know what? Just go and take the step. Go and take the step. And in my mind, I'm going, I got to wait for 2 hours standing there in line while I feel 10 tons of bricks against my chest right now. I'm like struggling to get my breathing back in order. But I just couldn't help it. She was so kind, so gracious. Melissa and I were like, can we adopt you? And so I said, you know what? Yes, let's do it. Let's all go. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Little did I know, she walks up, she does this kind of Obi-Wan Kenobi thing, speaking of Disney, Star Wars, or all those things. Wait, Guardians is not, that's Marvel. Whatever. Anyways, she walks up to the door and she goes, these folks are going to go into the ride. So they pull out their tablets to take a lightning pass or take this. And she just waves at them. She goes, no, they won't be needing that. And she opens the door and lets us right in past all the lines, all the stuff. And we got right into where you go to take the next steps of, where they show the things and you walk through and there's stuff on the screen and all that. We go in and I'm still like, I'm still in this state. And I looked at my wife and I go, was that an angel? Did an angel just show up? Because I look out for them. And that was really weird. What just happened? Well, come to find out, we went through the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Like I said, that ride's nutty. Someone on a DMT LSD trip came up with that ride. We walked out and she was there. How was the ride? Because I was like, if we walk out of this and she is nowhere to be found, then an angel just met up with us at Disney World and at Epcot Center, and I don't know what to do with that in my thinking. It's interesting, though, in that moment, because I came down. It took me a few hours to kind of level out, because it just hit me in so many different areas. But I saw this picture where we're in the midst of our fears and grace calls us. And grace isn't calling you to get fixed, get all your stuff together, or even feel better right now. Because I didn't feel to take the next step. But I sensed that grace calling me, take the next step. And just go for it. So I don't know, whatever that means for you, I want to encourage all of you, let grace lead you to take that just next step, to face your fears. Now, let me take that story and move forward a few days. We are getting ready to go home. Now, I started not feeling well. Doing the parks thing kind of wore me out. One day in particular, I just knew it was too long of a day. Nothing I could have been done. It just wore me out, and I started feeling sick. But the day we were getting ready to leave, and I'm on the computer doing my check-in. I'm checking us in, just making sure our seats, all that you do when you check on for your plane. And I look at our seats, and guess what came up in me? The same thing that happened Wednesday. That I'm going to be in that airline seat, and I'm going to be contained. And so this is where fear wants to spread. And because I've known this so many years of my life and my journey, I've known what this stuff wants to do. And this is where my spiritual senses were needed, and discernment and understanding. Because as I was typing in our seats, I felt myself going, no, I need to change seats. I need a different seat. I could feel it just wanting to spread. And right there, sitting at the table where I was working, no one was with me. My wife wasn't with me, because the girls, they weren't even there in the room with me. I just stopped, put my hand over my heart, and said, God, you see what happened to me Wednesday? You see where fear came over me that day and hit me. And I just give you that moment right now. I give it to you. And I renounce fear from spreading any further. I repent and renounce of any agreements that I'd be tempted to carry from this point out. From that moment, I command that fear to leave right now. I'm going to take my peace. I'm going to fly in this plane. I will be fine. I'm going to face it. I'm going to take my peace back. And I could feel a lifting off of me. That's why I believe so strongly when it comes to our spiritual battle, to be aware of the attack of fear wants to come against you. Because fear seeks to prevent the progress of faith, hope, and love. There are power strengths. Faith, hope, and love work together to help our thinking, to help move us into empowering directions. And so I went, wow, it brought me back to the principles I teach in the book, I Will Not Fear. And it's like, wow, you see the battle in the simplest of areas. And this is a vacation thing, right? It's just trying to have some fun with my family, trying to do something and have an opportunity with my daughter and with my niece, and just be a blessing to them and give them a good experience. Abby's going back to school tomorrow. We've been homeschooling her for years. And so we thought, you know what, let's take this opportunity, because we don't have as much room now to just go away if we want to take her away. She's got a school schedule and all that. And so wanted to make this and here I am in the midst of this battleground. And recognizing, yes, this is what fear's wanting to do, to steal the potential in your life. And so many of you, whether you're perfectionists, you have anxiety issues, depression, many of you have avoidance issues. You've been conditioned to be afraid of something, and it causes you to withdraw. God has all of us at different stages of our journey where we're learning to face what we're afraid of. Layer by layer. We're learning not to just avoid everything, not to just run and hide, but to learn to stand our ground. Because for many of you, a good scripture for your year is Ephesians 6, where it says, when you've done all to stand, just stand. This isn't a striving and get up and gear yourself up and pump yourself up for the day kind of thing. No more. It's just more, just stand your ground. I'm loved by God. I'm not going to let these thoughts dictate my next step. I wanted to let fear call the shots and just go, forget it. I'm done for the day. But I stepped into grace. And I'm happy I did, because I found myself working through another round of an aspect of fear in my life, in my journey. So I pray that's a blessing to you. I pray that's an encouragement to you. And I know that was a bit of a longer story, but I will get to your questions now. Let me just take a brief dance break. I'll be right back. Happy New Year, everybody. I see somebody in the super chat. By the way, Renee Hendricks, thank you so much. Bay, with 3 Y's there, B, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Liaven, you have a question that you sent in. Let me bring it over this screen here. Mark, my wife and I are currently having a productive separation. Okay, productive, that's good. We're both healing from CPTSD. Isn't it CPTSD? I get lost in abbreviations, but anyways, I get what you're saying. And really want to be back together. Any advice during this difficult time to make it more productive? Well, I don't think that you should put intense pressure. For whatever reasons you're separated, if you both have heavy traumatic histories, that means that your traumatic histories are lashing out, and you're probably lashing out at each other. It's very common in marriage that when 2 people come together, that your battles, your struggles, your demons, your trauma, your history, your brokenness lashes out and hooks on to your spouse. And it creates this ping pong of strife. And it's It's definitely the area and arena that the enemy loves to kick up. Strife, because where there's strife, there's every evil thing, to get this combativeness going on. I don't trust you and you don't love me, and all these kind of things that go on. So complex post-traumatic stress is where you've been under a continual environment of trauma, and or there's been a severe sense of neglect that's going on in your life. So the fact that the two of you recognize that, and I think it's wonderful that you're going, we want to love each other, but right now we're like dangerous to each other, so we need to separate. I've seen some pastors that I don't like this, taking a break separation, because then it just leads to them going, forget it. But I can see where there's value in being physically and relationally safe, so both of you can work on your own issues. So both of you need to be intentionally working through the traumatic history of your life and how it's affected you, and especially in how it affects you in fear and how it affects you in anger, because those two areas become manifestations that erode at the relationship and the bond and can move you apart. I'm not working with you. I don't know all the details and all the things, but I do think it can be powerful to regain a dating relationship. What does it look like to come together? Maybe go out to a restaurant, meet together, and have civil interactions. If two people are humble, if a husband and a wife humble themselves before God, both of them, because in marriage it's always two. It doesn't, and even if one spouse has more of the baggage manifesting, it's still two people. If they'll be willing to humble themselves, God can do amazing things. And you're listening to a guy who married someone that we had a guy pray over us one time. He was in the prophetic kind of leaning, but he was praying over us. It kind of cracked us up because he's like, the two of you are like two rams. And I'm like, yeah, if you heard some of our early arguments, yep, just strong-minded, right? And our journey is something where that could have been used to completely divide us and erode us. But it actually became a place for God to humble us, sanctify us, heal our hearts, and learn how to heal and mature in so many ways. So I'm not going to give you something to make it quicker, but I'm going to give you something to help it from going too much slower. Does that make sense? Right? I don't think that our journey, we can, escalate and make it quicker. Don't try to accelerate your journey. But I think there are things that get in the way that can prolong it. Right? Like I believe Israel, they went into the wilderness. That's a part of their journey. They weren't going to speed that up, but they did prolong it by their, constant complaining and grumbling, and the Bible in Hebrews looks back and says, there was hard-heartedness there. They were stubborn in their unbelief. They wanted to go back, and all this stuff. And all of us fall into those patterns. So what I can do to keep it from being prolonged and inefficient is if you'll both humble yourself. If you come with humility. Because in marriage, many of our issues stem back to our brokenness, and we surround brokenness with hard-heartedness, with pride, and with self-protective mechanisms. You're not going to hurt me, and here's what I'm going to do to guard myself. And so I get it. That's what happened if you had CPTSD, and you've had a lot of upbringing, whether you were raised by addictions, raised by neglect, raised with abuse going on, raised with constant dysfunction. That takes a lot of reparenting. So humility, both recognizing I've got issues. This isn't about you being the enemy. This is about me working through and humbling myself to being willing to be reasonable so that when you communicate, there's reasonability. You want to maintain and guard reasonability. To be willing to go, I hear you on that. I hear on that, something I need to work through, versus our defense mechanisms. Because we all have bondage, but we have a tendency to defend our bondage. Right? Like, yeah, I'm angry. I'm angry because you keep doing that. Right? We have defenses that protect our broken areas. Yeah, I have this because I have a lot of hurt. I have a lot of pain. If we're willing to humble ourselves, then over time, it opens up the best possibility for healing for both people. I think that the principle of reparenting, I would encourage that. If you've been a child of addicts, you could consider material like Adult Children of Alcoholics. They've got a red book. It's a pretty thick one. Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. I went through the whole book. There's some really interesting things there. I'm not presenting it as gospel. I'm just presenting it as a resource to focus in on that kind of healing you're talking about. So that's my feedback for that. And pray blessings and keep me posted. Write me an email one day and let me know how the journey is going for. And I pray that God will continue to shine his grace on both of you as you humble your hearts. Say, God, we're willing to work on our issues, willing to humble ourselves before each other, willing to walk in new patterns as you heal our hearts. With that said, let me get into a couple theological hangups that have been sent into the questions, and we'll see how far I can get today with our opening Q&A of the year. This one has to do with the subject of dying to self. Hey, Mark, I was wondering on the topic of dying to self that Jesus talks about in Matthew 16, 24 to 25. Can you expand on this subject and how to think and apply it soberly for someone who's going through the journey of mental health healing? I struggle between the concepts of the plans God has for my life, my dreams and passions, but also dying to self. Okay, so let me start it off this way. And this, for some of you, may make you go, wait, what, Mark? The phrase die to self is not in the Bible. I think it's one of those, what they call it, Mandela effect. You know what I think it's called Mandela effect. It's this thing that happens where you associate something with being something and it's not. They do that with like logos where people think something is in a logo, but when you actually see the logo, it's not there, but your mind put it in there. They call that the Mandela effect. And I think Christians have that with die to self. It's not in the Bible. Now, you could say the concept is there. Okay, I got you. But now we've taken that phrase, die to self. You need to die to self. And we have used it as a blanket statement that we can apply to everything. I've seen it used in a lot of settings where I just cringed. You know, I remember a guy standing up at a marriage conference and he was asking a question and he says, I'm really struggling with self-hatred and I'm really struggling. I want to love my wife better and he was just really crying out for his heart. And the speaker just gave him this like backhanded black and white, as a lot of people do. He's like, well, you just haven't died to yourself. And I'm just like, I remember sitting in that conference going, God, use me to help give some better feedback than these blanket statements that we make that just add more bondage to people. So dying to self, the Bible speaks in the New Testament about dying, being crucified to the sinful nature, the flesh, the old you. Now, if I was to ask any Christian, hey, would you like to keep the old you alive? I don't think I would ever hear, I've never heard someone go, yes, I want to be in the old me. I want to be that. No, course we want the old. Don't you want the aspects that lean towards sin, that lean towards self-righteousness, that lean towards self-survival? Don't you want that dead? Of course. We want the new. That's what the gospel brings to us. Now, what the person writing is asking me is twofold. They're bringing out Matthew 16. Now bring it up here, which is talking about deny yourself. Okay, we're talking a little bit different here. But there is application to this. So we're talking about this, and then the second part of the question is, I have these desires and dreams, but they have a contrarian view of God. So if I have a desire to write, God must not want that. If I have a desire to draw, if I have a desire to do creative things, my inbox is constantly filled with people going, I feel like I have a passion about this, but I feel like God doesn't want it. They have a contrarian OCD thing where God is against whatever they like because we have a poor relationship with desire. If you desire something, it means that's bad. You shouldn't want it. God doesn't want it. You enjoy something, that's bad. It covers so much of what people write to me about. Jesus said to me, as anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. The approach that Jesus had was not, hey, here's the gospel, and let me tell you the 5 reasons why it'll benefit your life, and let me give you a sales pitch. That's how a lot of people live today when it comes to decisions we make. You give a sales pitch, the pros and cons. Jesus would say, drop everything, just come and follow me. And so he says this phrase, if you desire to come after me, let him deny himself. Now that word deny is the same thing as like Peter denying Jesus in the sense of having no acquaintance with. Like, I don't know that guy anymore. So what you're doing is you're denying the old you. That's not me anymore. I'm stepping into a new. I'm letting go of the old and I'm now stepping into the new. This is what salvation exchange brings about. If any man be in Christ, he's a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. In other words, you're stepping into a whole new world. Now, you'll spend the rest of your life discovering this new world because many Christians teach that this should all manifest as a finished work, as a finished manifestation. Like, no, this is a journey of sanctification, of healing, of growing up, please. Jesus said it's finished, but you and I are on our journey. We are grabbing hold of the finished work, which brings us righteous before God, which is amazing. It's called justification. And then we're in a journey of letting that have its work into manifesting in our thoughts, our behaviors, how we treat people, how we act, the fruit of the Spirit formed, transformation, the truth that sets us free. So there is the word deny here, it speaks of like, I'm breaking acquaintance with this. I'm forgetting about it. I'm putting it away. And one of the things that Jesus confronts here, we are all born, yes, with sinful nature. We're born with the flesh, the old identity, the old you, but we're born with a sense of self-survival. I got to look out for me. I got to protect myself. I got to get mine. A great picture of this is and you seen the movie, I remember watching Oliver Twist or things like that, seeing an orphanage. It's this picture of self-survival. Because when you're disconnected from family, which correlates to the sense of disconnection from the Father, you feel a sense of self-survival. I gotta look out for me. I gotta look out for me. We become very self-absorbed. And Jesus is like, if you're gonna live that way, it's gonna get in the way. So deny that. Put away, go, I'm not that person anymore. I'm a new person now. I'm stepping into a new thing. And I'm going to let go of self-survival. Now, why am I bringing that part up? Because he says here in the next sentence, whoever desires to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. What does saving my life mean? I'm trying to protect my reputation. I got to get mine. I got to find my way. I got to blast through the crowd. I got to make sure I got to do all these things to get a sense of success in life. I got to achieve this. That's the world system. And Jesus goes, if you live by that, you're going to lose it. If you look at the world of Hollywood, movies, and music, it's a perfect picture of it. People trying to save their life. Becoming somebody. And what does every story in Hollywood have? Like I used to watch the show VH1 Behind the Music, I think it was called. And it was the same story, just different people over and over again. Of them basically selling, giving their identity fully into this, putting their whole soul into it. And then hitting a crash. Because everything fell apart and they had millions of dollars and fame everywhere and they were completely empty. That's what Jesus is talking about. You try to save your life, you're going to lose it. But just lose that. Lose that sense of like, I got to be this. I got to have this success. I got to have this kind of thing. Or I need my finances to be this. Or I need my relation. I need people to like me in this way. He goes, let it go. Take up your cross. Now, what does the take up your cross mean? Well, think about their time. Think about what Jesus is leading up to and think about the time. The cross was a place of public shame in the sense of there was a sense of embarrassment and humiliation to it, right? And there's a picture here where you're being willing to recognize that you're going into a new phase of life where the world is not going to love you. There's going to be persecution. There's going to be suffering just because you're a Christian. Now, I live in the United States of America, and there was heavy, heavy Christian influences at the footing of our country. Whether people argue whether we're a Christian nation or not, I'm not interested in getting into that argument. There was a lot of influence. So the reason I bring that up is we have a lot of conveniences. Whereas I can have this ministry, and I'm not worried about someone coming to my door with a gun or threatening my life because I serve Christ. May change, and I need to keep growing and overcoming my fears and being an overcomer to be prepared if that day starts to happen. And the apostles and those guys, they dealt with those kind of intensities. I'm doing this whole research on church history, and it's unbelievable some of the pressure in the early days of the church that they were under just for being Christ followers, because they were seen as a threat. So Jesus is saying you're stepping into a life of inconvenience, of resistance. This is not you step in and everything's just going to be easy. What Christians often do, though, is they have these self-imposed crosses they put on themselves. It's like they're trying to re-crucify themselves or something in this. And they apply it in ways that are not helpful. When you're denying yourself, you're denying, it's the old you you're letting go of, and your sense of self-survival and self-protection. You're surrendering that to God. It's like, even in my work, what does this look like? It's like, if I am walking in just who I am and what I teach, there's going to be people that don't like me, that don't like what I do, that get angry at the values that I stand for, that get furious, that may attack me, that may be a mocker against me. There may be aspects of persecution I go through, even just relationally, just for being a person who loves Christ and follows Christ. So this is what Jesus is talking about when he's saying, there's so many that are trying to gain the world. And he says, well, does it profit you to gain all this stuff? He goes, just let that go. Deny it. This sense of you developing some kind of platform for yourself. So anyway, you said you struggle between the concepts, the plans that God has for your life, my dreams, and my passions. I don't look at dreams and passions as this is my dream, and I don't know if this is God or not. I just pay attention to what bubbles up. I think the church has a poor relationship with desire. We think if we desire something, now there is ungodly desire. It's called lust. It's forbidden desire. So if you desire someone else's spouse, it's a wrong desire, right? But many of you have desires to read, to teach, to to write music, to develop films, and we're constantly going, well, maybe that's not God. Maybe that's not God. And we're like suppressing those things. And I say it's okay to let those things bubble up. I've had things I'm doing now that I was kind of, bubbling up in the early 2000s. I wanted to create video content before video content was even streaming. I thought in my head it was going to be like DVDs. That's what my picture. Little did I know it was going to be even better than I thought, a better avenue than I even planned. But yeah, that dying to self concept. It's now, yes, we are crucifying the old. I am crucifying the old Mark, and Mark 2.0 is in Christ. Mark 1.0 is dead, but at times wants to get resuscitated. At some point, I'd like to do a teaching on what is the flesh, because we use that word a lot of ways. It's just in unfruitful ways. So anyways, I hope that's a help and blessing to your life and to your journey. Okay, I got an independent fundamental Baptist got a question here. I got a lot of friends in that community. Although the pastors, they can be tough. They can be tough. They don't like me. I'll like them. I don't know if they like me. Anyway, hey, Mark, my wife and I have donated to you before. Really appreciate your work. You've answered some of my previous questions. I hope you can do the same today. I have this overwhelming desire to make a difference in this world. I've always felt like I was meant for something big. He puts it in all caps. And I grow depressed when I don't see it happening. For context, I grew up as a pastor's son at an independent fundamental Baptist church, your favorite type. The messages were often about making a difference with your life and shaking the world with the gospel. Yeah, I've had a long journey with this whole dream big kind of thing. And I feel that modern culture has moved into a manic interpretation of the dream big, you're going to change the world. I have big concerns about that message. Now, Jesus said, go into all the world and preach the gospel as a declaration of there's no limits to this. I want the whole world to know. But I think we have taken the concept of making a difference and we have allowed a manic, grandiose influence to come over it. And it's heavily, heavily tormenting OCDers, perfectionists, type A's, high performance people. And it's sending many into depression because they feel like they're not world changing, and they look at people in their social media feeds and they go, I'm not doing that. Something must be wrong with me. So it's causing a lot of mental illness, and I think a lot of it's not of God. My son said this statement in our closing, my son, Max. And I didn't tell him this statement. This is not something I taught him. This is something he said on his own. If you heard the episode, I asked him the question, Max, what do you think about, how do you describe what dad does? And he said something and it's so wise. Sometimes Max says these things that are like outrageous. And then there's times where he says things I go, that's really good. He said, well, what you do is a really big deal, but it's also kind of not a big deal. And I said to my wife, I go, that's where I want to live. I want to live in that space where what I do is important. It matters, but it's not a big deal. God is not relying on me and it's hanging on me to make some kind of difference. But yet, what I do makes a difference. Do you see the balance that's there? Because many of you battle in one of those ditches. You either go, forget it, what I do doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. No one cares. No one cares. Stupid. I have nothing to say. What I do is not important. I have this dumb little Bible study. No one cares. And you've allowed the enemy to condition you that that's not significant. We live in such a world where if you don't have, thousands or millions of people and your subscribers, you don't really matter. and it's conditioned us very poorly. Or you feed this grandiosity, this world changer kind of thing. I don't encourage that for people. You're going to change the world. No. It's actually not that awesome to be in that kind of mode. You know, this kind of hits on a touchy subject because I live in Charlotte and the Billy Graham Center is right here in Charlotte. And I'm so grateful for Billy Graham's ministry, what he did. But it's interesting because I just got a copy of the book. I'm going to read through and check it out. His daughter, Ruth, not his wife, Ruth, his daughter, Ruth, wrote a book about forgiving her dad. Why? Because he had this worldwide ministry where he's known everywhere. But it made him unavailable in many ways to his kids. Now, I'm not saying that as an accusation against him. I'm just saying, folks, those of you that are wanting this, like, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change the world. That kind of mentality doesn't build strong, deep relationships. It doesn't build strong marriages. It doesn't build healthy parenting. It just doesn't. God's number one ministry is in your marriage and then to your children. I want to reset that to my brothers and sisters because I'm still constantly getting people going, that's not how I was trained. That's not how I was taught. I was taught ministry first and everything else submits to that. When you have this, I'm going to change the world kind of mentality, you end up having to serve the machine that comes about. There is a machine. It's one of the reasons why I take significant breaks. I turn the machine off. And I go, I'm taking a break. This Christmas break, it was like another reminder. Because my channel's grown. There's more people coming. There's more stuff. There's more attention being brought to what I'm talking about, what I'm saying. And it's like this thing wants to rise up. People need your help. I have to remind myself, no, I'm a brother from another mother. I'm not Jesus. I'm not some worldwide, whatever you want to call it. That's what I am. So when I unplug, it's a reminder that the world is not depending on me. But what I say matters. See, what I'm pointing to is sobriety. I'm sober. My daily life makes a difference in my wife's life, makes a difference in my children's life. And each person that I get to be a blessing to. But if I feed this, like, I got to change the world, it causes many to forsake what's important. I very rarely, I've met fancy, influential people. And most of the time, 99% of the time, they're very unimpressive. I was disappointed I met them. I was like, well, you're a lot different than you are on stage. Or they're no different than you and I. Trust me, they're not. But we look at them and we go, I want to be that. And many people, they just like, they pray that, make me the next this person, or make me the next that person, or whatever that means. It's not all it's cracked up to be. And there is a price that gets paid on people's lives that I don't think God put on us. Because we've mixed ministry, church, with American consumer capitalistic culture, with technology, because now you can speak to the world. You could create a platform and you could create these things. And now you need an agent and you need a booking person. You need this person, and an assistant, and this, and this, and this, and this. Now you got these people and you're reaching millions, which I don't want to take that away. But the bigger your reach is, the smaller the depth. This is a fact. This is not an opinion. The bigger your reach, the smaller the depth. You can only go deep with people in a small number. It's just a fact of life. Jesus had this, the 70, he had the 12, he had the 3, he had the 1. It's just how relationships work as human beings. So I say all that to say that that's hitting against you. You got to make a difference with your life. And I would say to you, focus on your marriage. I don't know if you have children or if you mentioned that at all yet. Yes, you have 2 daughters, 2 precious daughters. I get the feeling they're young. Treasure this time. My daughter's 14, and I'm like, wow, in just a few years, she's going to be in adulthood. It just hit me over these past few months. Like, oh my goodness. Take the time to focus your attention there. Here's my philosophy. Okay. Now I know we need to make a living. We need to find ways, I get all that, understand all that. Here's my philosophy is to focus on what's in front of me versus constantly striving to try to make something happen. I take advantage of opportunities. So when I started off, for example, I started off my one-on-one coaching work. I just had people coming to me. Hey, Mark, I heard you went through this anxiety. You get this. I got that weird anxiety thing you were talking about. And could I? And I go, okay. Why don't we sit down and that opened up, right? But then I was like, but I want to teach, and I found myself teaching people. So I said, you know what? Let me put some recordings together so people could listen to those. That would make our coaching time, our counseling time, better, right? Then I was like, oh, I need to probably develop a structure. Right? I've my whole journey been about take advantage to what's in front of you versus it's got to be big. So if you feel a heart like I want to teach people. Well, look at the people around you. Go, hey, would you guys be willing to get together for a class I'm going to teach on this? And 2 people show up. Awesome. 2 people. That's amazing. 2 people. That's so cool. You're like, oh, it's just 2 people. I just want to reject all that. Speaking of deny, I want to just deny all that. It's just a waste of time. All this stuff and trying to get a name. And then these big name people that don't even know how to have a conversation because they're so in their elite world of the fancy schmancy and this talking. It's like, come on. With all your titles and all your stuff. Hi, I'm Mark. Nice to meet you. What's going on? What kind of coffee you like? Yeah. What's happening? How's life going? Oh, really? This is great. Talk like a normal human being. The messages were often, I'm going back to your IFB history, which you're a pastor's son. So, okay. The messages were often about making a difference with your life and shaking the world with the gospel. I taught at an IFB college and only recently got out of it and into a more healthy church. I'm now 33 with an amazing wife, 2 precious daughters, yet I still have that ache that I'm supposed to do something more with my life. That's the conditioning from the messaging you got. And I'll tell you this, it's perfectionistic. It's never enough. It'll be never enough. It'll be never enough. So you could go and give the gospel to thousands of people, and that voice would still talk the next day. It's never enough, never enough, never enough, never enough, never enough. I currently make deliveries as my job and teach a very small class at church on Sundays. That's awesome. That's great. You got a delivery job? I hope it pays well. If not, I'm going to pray for you to find something that pays really well that you'll enjoy doing. You teach a very small class at church on Sundays. That's awesome. Small classes are the best. You can make great investments, have good discussions. You can leave marks on people's lives that could last a lifetime. I just don't know if this ache is from toxic preaching or if it's from God. Well, I think that too, there can be a sense of like a longing to see people reach with the gospel. So I'm not just blanket wiping it out. It's a sense of like, just like for me, I want the church to be healthier, but I have to be aware of the grandiose pressure that I go, oh, I got to do something to reach them all. Instead, I just do one thing at a time. And grace shows up in that. And like Max said, it's a big deal, but it's also not. So good, son. I meditate on being content and trusting God, but the pain persists. I think you need some time to detox which you grew up with. Listen, I got IFB friends and people I coach and help and stuff. There's IFB people in my community. It's awesome that in my healing and freedom community, I have charismatics and IFB people in there. That would never happen in life. It's just wonderful. It's wonderful. So I get the sense that you're in a healing journey. You have to remember, okay, you're a pastor's kid, so you grew up with seeing the value system in your house, also seeing your dad in ministry. Now, here's another thing too. When you're a pastor's kid, you often witness dissonance with who your pastor is on stage and who he is at home. I'm not saying your dad was. It's just a common thread that happens. There's that too. So I get the sense that you need to give yourself time to work through this guilt-ridden thing. That ache is probably a passion in your life to make a difference, which is great. But when guilt takes it over, it's always nagging you. And I don't want to encourage you compulsively trying to fix that. See the beauty in you teaching that small class. It's great. A few years ago, I discovered that I love writing novels, and I've been told I'm really good at it. Awesome. It's great. Sounds like there's something there. Go for it. My daughter loves to read novels and stories, and I am constantly going, oh, I would love to see some more content that's just good and wholesome. There's so much garbage out there. I light up when I write and everything makes sense. So that's, if I was you, I'd pay attention to that. I'd pay attention to that because I started writing. We were married. My wife she was pregnant with Max, and the writing bug happened. It's when I wrote the first edition of I Will Not Fear. And it just kept going and going. I was not a writer. I hated writing growing up. But Grace showed up, and I just kept feeding it. When Grace shows up, it's just taking the next step, and that's faith. Faith goes, I'm meeting Grace, and I'm stepping into it. Just like at the amusement park. When the lady looked at me with that smile, I had a moment of grace, and I met it with faith to step into it, to go, okay, I'm going to go on this ride. This isn't about me anyways, and I'm going to be fine. I'll figure this out. So in that same light, follow that grace, take a step of faith, and keep writing. I think I can make a big impact in the world with my writing, and I feel like it could be a perfect fit for what I've been feeling. I agree. However, I've hit a roadblock after roadblock of getting my novels published. Well, if you're having trouble getting it professionally published, or whatever that means. By the way, I self-publish everything. We live in a day and age where we have the opportunity. 20 years ago, I would have had to hunt down a publisher that I'd have to convince about my message to write a book and to get it out there. Now I can write it and click publish. It's amazing. Now I know it's a lot more complicated than that, and there's a lot of work in it. I don't want to diminish the work because now anyone can write a book. The work is actually staying at it, putting the word out there, knowing how to take your craft. And those who write novels, you need a specific strategy to put the work out there that's a little bit different than maybe nonfiction. Right. Okay. So anyways, you said you're having trouble. So maybe you should pursue self-publish. Self-publish your first book. And then maybe a publishing company may pick it up. Go get a really good title, get an awesome editor to help you, get a great book cover. Just get an awesome looking book cover, because people do tend to look at the book and go, do I like that? Does it stick out? And put it out there. See what happens. Okay, I've hit roadblock after roadblock getting my novels published. By the way, welcome to the club. Okay, when I put my first book out there, I don't have my crickets button anymore, but I would like to hit the crickets button. Nobody was reading my book material. Nobody was. It was very discouraging at first, but I just stuck with it. I'm still on my journey of growing as a writer. Okay, anyways, roadblock after roadblock. Most agents these days are ridiculously woke, and all white Christian men are evil. I've seen enough flickers of hope that my writing might get traditionally published, but I'm still in doubt. So just beware of developing a victim mindset in this. That the world's against me, nobody wants this. Just be aware of that. And any step you're going through, because you can develop a unhealthy paranoia, an unhealthy sense of like, everything's against me. There's a book out there called it's a book by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art. I think it's called, yeah. It's a great book. It's really short. And I feel like it well describes the spiritual battle of being a creative person. Like you think because, I'm not saying you, the person writing this, but just people in general, you think that because you put something out there, everyone's just going to gather to it. No, there's tons of resistance. Tons and tons and tons and tons of resistance. And that's okay. It's part of your process. Don't let the resistance stop you, but learn along the way. I've had to do a lot of learning. I learned who I am. I learned who I'm not. I learned where I want to be. I learned what I'm decided I'm not going to do. So anyway, let's see. Where were you? All Christian men are evil. I've seen enough. I feel so much like Joseph with his dreams and being in prison, wondering what went wrong, or David in the cave of Adullam. Okay, I hear you, but just beware of creating a victim narrative over this. That kind of like nothing works, nothing's gonna. It's a very common thing that happens when we're trying to develop a craft. My prayer is, Lord, if the desire to be a published writer is not going to work out, please remove the desire. Okay, brother, I think your prayer is kind of goofy here. I get it. I get it. I get your heart. Get it. But you're like, okay, God, if this isn't going to work out, that's a perfectionist mindset. If this isn't going to work out, then stop it, because I don't want to fail. I don't want this to not work out. And Christians have a hard time with failure. They think if something fails, then God wasn't in it. They think if something fails, it means God wasn't in it. You can't prove that's true. There's many things that failed in my journey that have been amazing teaching for me and helped me to learn and help me to, sometimes we don't learn unless it's through a hard experience. Many of those hard experiences speak volumes. So I want to push back on that, of this like preventive prayer, and then also please remove the desire. Nowhere, this is not a, you're not going, God, I'm coveting somebody else's wife. Could you please help me get rid of this desire? You're treating it like it's an evil desire. It's a great desire. Now, the desire, as you just keep stepping in it, maybe, just maybe, bear with me, maybe novels, maybe you become a nonfiction writer and you start writing theology books, or I'm not saying that's what it is. When we first start off in a passion, we tend to think it's going to go this way, but it has a different path that it takes. Like I said, I thought I'd be selling DVDs. I didn't know in the future there'd be streaming and I could go live and just talk to people. Right? And I'm so glad it went where it went, but at the time I had a certain expectation for it. So take a step, but know that over time, your pathway is going to get more and more ironed out. Then you're going to look back and you're going to go, God, wow, you were with this all along, and I didn't even realize it. I'm spending a lot of time on this one. If I'm not supposed to make a difference in this life to thousands or millions of people, please take away the desire as it's tearing me up inside. So I can see the all or nothing kind of thinking that you go into. So let's just take the desire to impact millions. Okay, let's let millions go. Let's let thousands go. Let's let hundreds go. And what I mean by that is just let it just float on by. Okay? Just let it float on by. Doesn't need to, it's overrated. It's overrated, folks. It's overrated. I have 165 people in this live right now. That's amazing. What about thousands? Who cares? Who cares? I leave that in God's hands. Now, in order for that to, if there's a bigger reach, then there needs to be more people that would gather around me and be a part of that. the meantime, there's no pressure on this thing, right? God is not in heaven going, Mark, I really need you to do this or this whole thing's going to fall apart. I hope you're getting what I'm saying because I know I'm spending a lot of time here on responding to this. Just let the millions float, the thousands float, and even the hundreds. How many people are in your Bible study? Focus in on that. Because to be able to take 10 people and help them through something is amazing. And we were relationally wired to do our best work at that level. So it's not about the desire going away. It just needs to be recalibrated. That's all. Your desires are not evil. I want to help recalibrate some of the grandiose stuff. And that comes from culture and preaching and you got to change the world. I'm going to do it, God. I'm going to do it. Whatever I got to do. I do to change the world. God, use me. I want to change the world. It's like, God, can you go babysit these people over here? Nah, that's not changing the world. Changing diapers isn't changing the world. I don't know if the desire to influence countless people is of God or some toxic teaching lingering me from my upbringing. I think it's some of the teaching from your upbringing. I fall into bouts of depression. Yeah, that's what perfectionists do. Perfectionists fall into depression because they always feel like they're in failure and never enough. So you do sound like a Christian perfectionist. If I dwell too long on the thought of getting published seems so overwhelming. So I would self-publish. Because maybe, by the way, I'm going to give you a little secret, you writers out there. Corporate publishers, which right now I am not interested in a publisher. They can knock on my door. They could offer me all kinds of, well, I'm not going to. But anyways, let me pull back a little bit and not be so all or nothing. But I'm not interested in it. I like being able to write it how I want it written. I get editing help and I don't have to fuss over this statement. We'll leave this out. All that stuff. But here's the thing that you need to know about publishers. They like to see somebody that's already doing the work versus just handing in a manuscript. They're already putting work out there. They're making it happen. Because, let me tell you a little secret, even if you get signed with a publisher, you still have to do the majority of the marketing. A lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, get to the publisher, they're going to sign me up for a traveling book thing, and I'm going to have to. Yeah, if you're one of those famous where they give them $1 million, pre contract before the book even comes out. But no. So this is about you practicing who you are and developing confidence. And you only develop confidence by just doing it. Writing things, putting it out there. Get a website. Put your name on there. Make it an easy website. Do some blog entries and put some of your writing material on there. See if people like it. I know that David and Joseph both knew God had something important in mind for them. I feel David and Joseph were not manic about some kind of thing that they were trying to pursue. Joseph was not like, I'm going to become high up in Potiphar's kingdom and I'm going to be next to Pharaoh and I'm going to change the world. No, he was just like, hey guys, I had this cool dream. Hey, you had a nightmare or you had a dream? Oh, I can help you with that. He just served who was in front of him and God promoted him. And so whether God promotes you to a higher level or not, you don't need to, you have zero pressure of that. I feel like all these feelings from God are some childish fancy led by toxicity. You got a lot of black and white thinking, all or nothing. It's like, is this either God telling me I'm going to change the world and millions of people, or is this foolish, toxic garbage? I hope what I shared is a help there. Anyways, let me take a break here and have a little bit of some S. Pellegrino. Get that in focus. And I did have somebody write to me trying to pose as though they were S. Pellegrino. It was the most goofiest. Like you could just totally tell this was a spammy email. They must have seen my broadcast and we're like, hey, we'll get this guy wrapped in. We'll be a sponsor for your show. Anyways, I'll be back. I just saw over in Rumble, Courtney Laws, you said the subject of surrender always makes me afraid. And I'll tell you what, too, that subject messed me up growing up in the church. Being that I was Assemblies of God, there was a lot of emphasis in rallies, youth conventions, of this going all out for God kind of thing that would happen. I was reflecting on that this morning because I was thinking about my daughter and things that I want her to, have good influences in her life and her Christian walk, and just kind of being prayerful about her journey. And I was thinking about my upbringing youth group, and there was a lot of like, it's almost like being born again wasn't good enough. You got to be all in. My parents, they had the are you spirit filled? And that was something that Pentecostals added on. It became legalistic. Like, are you Christian, but you spirit filled? It's kind of like we're in an elite status. You're not in elite status. You're in basic. And that subject of surrender was something that I feel is often taught in a way that is unhelpful. It was often taught in a couple ways. Okay, if you got to really be in for God, and this is what it's got to look like, and there's a list of things that you got to have. Or when you're praying and you don't feel close to God, it's because you're not fully surrendered, and you kind of start examining all these things that you got to give up. Or the subject of surrender is God's going to cause you to do something that's very irrational. You got to give up these things. You like skiing, you got to give up skiing. And then we became obsessed with idolatry. Everything's an idol. This is an idol in your life. I'm going to do a talk about. We're obsessive about idols. It's coming soon to a YouTube Rumble channel near you. But for me, it developed a sense of anything that I liked, God was against it. So if it brought me joy, I needed to give that up. So they'd have these services. You come to the front. If you're ready to put it all on the line, give it all to God. And this mindset traveled into the charismatic community, which I'm very, very familiar with and have years and years of experience in that. Where it was, you want God to do signs and wonders in your life, then you got to live a full surrendered life. You got to live at this level. You got to do, so it's a constant, and to get God to manifest in a certain way, got to get all these things going. And I really see it became a hidden form of legalism where people were trying to do all these things to get God's attention, to get him to do something, to feel connected, to feel that they've arrived, to feel that they've landed in some elite status. You know, I was just on a plane, coming back home. So you hear that like reward status. Those of you that are elite status, priority status. Like, what does this even mean? What is this? It's like, do you have a special room? What is it? Oh, priority status, you get to board early. So I got that saying in my head. And it became that like trying to chase that. And it's, I see so much unhealthy patterns it's produced in people's lives that, so anyways, just responding to that, Courtney, it's probably because of the way it was taught to you. And I relate to that. And it fed a lot of obsessive compulsive. My wife found, she's doing a good job here sending me over. Question from Bex. Is that the name? Bex Tutawa? If I'm saying the name wrong, please forgive me. I have the strangest question I keep forgetting to email, and it's not mental health related. It's how do you find which denomination of church is right for you, even though for us, do we even specific one? Can't we just be? I don't know. He lost me there on the last part of the phrasing. How do you find a denomination of church? There's no formula for that. I think start with, when it comes to church, where I start with is not necessarily where to attend. That's not where I start. I start with, who do you know that are believers, that are your friends, that are in physical proximity somewhat? And how can you get together and encourage one another? That to me is what Hebrews, was it 10:25, 10:35, whatever it is talking about. Don't forsake the assembling of yourselves. We interpret that into our large gatherings, an audience looking up at a stage, and then we go, we went to church. That's not what Hebrew writer's saying. The Hebrew writer's saying, don't stop getting together, because what happens as life gets going, you get busy, you have things going on. The tendency is you lose time for the relationships that are important, right? You see that in your marriage. You get in the go zone, go mode. So I'd start with, who are the people that you know? Now, if you go, I don't know anyone, I'm all alone, okay. Then kind of go, all right, what place near me has the closest thing to where I'm at as far as my theological convictions? Give it a try. Let's see what happens, And I'm all about follow the grace. And so what I want to encourage is, have people in your life that you're connected with, that you're able to sharpen each other, because that's good. You said it's not a mental health question, but it is, because loneliness and isolation does breed more mental health problems and battles, because you're made to relate. You're made to connect. You're made to be in connection, right? But again, even if you attend a church, that's still not connection. Okay? Those of you pastors out there, relax. It's just not. Me watching you teach on a stage is awesome. Great music, great teaching, awesome, wonderful. That's not connection. It's actually being with brothers and sisters, sharing with one another. That's church. And when that happens, but that takes time but don't accuse yourself, condemn yourself, beat yourself up. Look for the grace. What's the grace on your life in the season where you're at? All right, let me do one more question, and then I think I'll start to wind things down, maybe two. We'll see. I did mention this, so I feel responsible to cover it. About growing up feels like a violation, and add to it, and my body feels disgusting. Hi, Mark. Thank you for your great content, which has truly been remarkable in changing my thought process around love and self-acceptance. I'm learning a lot, and while I have a ways to go, I'm happy to at least recognize my core problem. I'm reading God Loves Me and I Love Myself, and clearly struggle with self-hatred, which I have a whole chapter that's dedicated to self-hatred. There's a chapter on shame, a chapter on self-rejection, a chapter on self-hatred, the self stuff, and a lot of other self words. As I've been reading your book, I came across a strange issue within myself I'm hoping for you to address in Q&A. I know many women, I'm 30, struggle with self-acceptance for many reasons. However, I rarely come across women who feel like growing up is a violation of self. Well, you're going to have to explain, I think you do here. Or maybe they just aren't saying it out loud. I think some people are growing in awareness of how sexuality and sex have been so taboo for so long. And this has created cycles of shame and disgust for women. But my problem seems unique. It's very, very common that people, when they write to me, my problem is very unique. I'm going to say, I see what you're describing. You're wording it in ways that has some unique nuance to it. But the problem you're describing is everywhere, just so you know. And because I've read through what you talk about here. And I believe one of the reasons that sex has been difficult is because the church spent a lot of time in the prohibition part of it, is that the right word? In the sense of what not to do. You know, have sex, but wait till marriage. Don't, right? Pornography, no, all those things. But we didn't know how to, we didn't actively help, especially parenting, talk about what it means to cultivate a healthy perspective, how to handle your sex drive, how to deal with attraction, how to deal with thoughts and urges, how to actually navigate something that you think about a lot, and how to relate to your own body. When you have issues with self-hatred and shame, it's very visceral. You feel it in the cells of your body. There's a sense of disgust. So you often feel very disconnected from your body, which creates a contempt relationship with your body. Then you start to hate certain features about your body. And you can even be good looking and not see good lookingness, right? You develop a hostile relationship with yourself. So you say, from my early days, I was taught that growing up was unsafe and bad. Now, what I would ask is, who told you that? And I don't mean literally as a human being, but where did that thought kind of appear? I wonder about your parents' relationship with you, about how that developed. And I think from what you share here, it's bringing me some insight. From my early days, I was taught that growing up was unsafe and bad. I was ashamed when I hit puberty and did everything to hide myself, including wearing 4 shirts at a time, which was very uncomfortable. So I'm wondering, so puberty is a very, very challenging time for everybody. And for some, it could be a rapid change where you start developing, your body's changing, it's happening very quickly. Where is your mom and dad, and what's their influence during that stage? It's a very vulnerable time. There's a lot happening. Hormones are changing, breaking out, right? So you said you tried to cover up everything I could. I refused to even get my ears pierced because it felt too adult. And I was terrified of the guilt I would feel for partaking in such an activity. I rejected a lot of benign norms growing up because I perceived them as being something as disgusting person would do, like wearing a swimsuit. Now, I'm not going to get into the nuance of swimsuits, what's appropriate, what's not, because that's not the point here. But when I read your question, there's a sense of self-disgust of your own body that to me gives me the signal of, I first ask, this sounds like someone who's been abused, sexually abused. Because when you've been sexually abused, it comes out in how you feel about your own body. Some people who have been sexually abused, they will put on massive weight, and it subconsciously becomes a protective mechanism of no one will take advantage of me again. And they, and they may be like, oh, I hate that I'm overweight, and they try to lose it, but it's like this, like the body's just conditioned into having that physical self-protection, or developing a real sense of disgust of your own body. That's a signal of not only self-hatred, but also shame. To see, so that's my first thought. My second thought kind of goes into your relationship with your mom here, because there seems to be emotional abuse in how your mother handles you. When I was 18, my mother and I were shopping at a mall. We were stopped by a huge modeling talent scout who wanted to sign me. I was actually flattered, but my mother got so scared, she panicked at the mall, prayed over me, and then reminded me to dress even more covered up. So I wonder about the toxic relationship with your mom here. Now, listen, I understand a parent, like if that happened to me, my daughter, yeah, there'd be a nervousness. Of course. Oh my goodness, to be put into that kind of world. I don't know how I feel about that. But I don't think it was just that. It sounds to me like there was a whole mechanism how your mom related to you that was probably very unhealthy, that you're learning to come out of 12 years later, now being 30 years old. And she prayed over you. So was she hyper religiously legalistic? I remember internalizing this and feeling guilty for existing as a woman, and it never went away. Of course, there's many other issues related to this. I can't date and never have. I can't even conceptualize a relationship with a man. So where's your father in this? What was his role in your life? And how did your mom convey to you in being a woman and what it's like to relate to a man? Because they set the framework for it. They set the framework for how we relate in that way. However, at the core of this, I realized there's a sense of disgust and violation over growing up and becoming a woman. My sister feels this way too. I found her ripping off her fake nails because she felt like a woman of ill repute. Yeah, I think your mom
might have been the church lady. I hate to say that, but I think your mom might have been the church lady.
Just saying, shall we say, I have made strides in this area, but even when I'm at a beach or pool in a one piece, I feel guilt and extreme disgust with myself. A guy who works the coffee bar at my local spot clearly is interested in me. He's very polite and respectful. But now I can't go there anymore because I feel like I've done something wrong. I've connected this to the feeling that by growing up, I've violated myself, almost as if it was a sexual sin. I know this is a lie, but I can't beat back the allegations. I'd like to be free, explore my life in a healthy way, and be a free woman in Christ. And I know he made me, but I can't shake the feeling that I am injuring a younger girl myself somehow by stepping out into the fullness of healthy adulthood. Your parents' responsibility is to set you up to launch you into adulthood. And so my radar is going off like wild, that there are massive problems here, potentially abusive aspects. Doesn't have to be sexual, physical. It could be just emotional, in being in a performance-driven, perfectionistic, legalistic kind of pressure that played on you to not let you see, because a woman discovers her beauty first by her father calling it out. He notices your beauty. He calls it out. He reinforces that. The mother's responsibility is to help her steward her beauty. Yes, the mother calls you, you look beautiful, you look nice. But her role is to nurture and steward your beauty, self-care, dealing with your monthly cycle, dealing with puberty, your changing body, how to care for your body, all those things, right? To steward that, to dress appropriately, right? With context, right? And not with, legalism and But it does seem that your upbringing had a lot of shame thrown at you. And maybe your mom too, she's got her own brokenness. I don't know. Sometimes parents have a jealousy that their kids are good looking and, they're in their own insecurity. And so I think what I would suggest to you is keep going through the God loves me, I love myself. And start to apply the part there where I talk about the affirmations. Father, you love me. I love myself. I have what it takes to overcome. Include statements in there about your physiology. God, thank you for this body that you made. Many of us are so detached from our bodies that we're separated on it. I had such a long streak of having self-hatred about my belly. Got a little bit of a gut, At certain times it was a lot bigger. And I just have and I just began over time to just go, God, thank you for this. Thank you for my belly. I do this weird thing. I know this is weird. It's just me. I'm not creating a theology here. But I just go, belly, I love you. I love you, belly. It's just a little thing I did. Again, I'm not trying to establish some woo-woo theology. I just know words are powerful. And I talk to myself and direct my thoughts. Love you, belly. Oh, you got a little bit of cushion there. That's it. Right? God, thank you for the body you created. I love this temple. I love this dirt bucket. Isn't that what Paul said? That he's put the treasure in earthen vessels. I love this dirt bucket. Thank you for this mobile home. How many of you need to apply that? You're fussing over your weight, fussing over your looks. You're calling your plastic surgeon. You're whatever it is. And I'm not against plastic surgery. I'm not against, losing weight and stuff like that. But when you do it driven by self-hatred, you're gonna end up in cycles over and over again. So change starts with learning to lovingly accept yourself right where you are now, and then moving into the next healthy steps that are available for you. So the guy that's at the coffee shop who's being nice to you, practice having conversations with him. Because you say, I got to learn how to relate to men, and I don't know how to relate to men in a healthy way. Find other people that have healthy interactions and learn from them, glean from them, and know that shame's going to hit you while you're practicing, but let yourself practice along the way. I have more I could say on that, but let me go into one more question before I close out today. It's about confusion over the word perfect. I feel like I can answer this briefly. Matthew 5:48, be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Please explain this. There's a lot of people who do this. They drop me a question, they give me a verse, they go, explain it. And they're just like hitting a button on me. Go. The second thing that bothers me is salvation. I know I have several videos on this. You have several videos on this topic. How can I get rid of this burden? Subconsciously, it bothers me that I should not try to commit sins in order to earn salvation. If I commit a sin, I offend God. Every day is filled with sin. I can't relax because our sins we enjoy like any normal person. Usually when people write to me and say I have sins that I'm struggling with, it's usually sexual. It's sleeping with somebody, it's pornography and masturbation. It's like that kind of thing. That's usually what they mean. Okay. The word perfect here is not in the way that perfectionists hear it. The word perfect speaks of complete, to become a more mature. Let me just pull it up. In a fuller stature. Matthew 5:48. And when he says this, it's in context too. He's talking about like loving people at a better level. Don't just love people who are nice to you. Know how to be loving to people that hate you. That's a big challenge, right? For all of us, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. He's growing us up in sonship. And so it's the word teleos, which speaks of full age. That's what I was grabbing onto. being brought to its end, completeness. It's you're moving to being a full-grown adult of full age. It's not sinlessness that you have zero. That's not what is being conveyed here. But he's saying, I'm calling you to a higher calling. You're growing as sons and daughters. And in context, he's saying here, you've heard it said, you shall love your neighbor, hate your enemy. And he's like, I'm going to upgrade you. Grace is going to upgrade this because we're going to now deal with the heart. He said, be loving to your enemies. Have a loving heart towards them and have a heart that blesses people when they curse you, right? Do good to those who hate you. Because in the law, it was like, you slap me, I slap you back. You do this to me, I do back. And Jesus says, let me take you to the next level. And what does he say? That you may be sons of your Father in heaven. Sonship is a picture of us being loved by our Father in heaven, sons and daughters, being loved by our Father in heaven and growing up to become young men, young women, to grow up being fathers and mothers, maturing. Paul said the word full stature he used. So that's what he's speaking. He sees it's not that, okay, right now you got to, in every area, be perfect and sinless and not having any weakness or any of that. Even in the Old Testament, the word was used in a way that means what I'm talking about. Job, for example, it said he was perfect and upright. It doesn't mean he was sinless. It doesn't mean he's sinless. He had fear. He had doubt. He had all kinds of goofiness. Go read the book. It's a long transcript of all the things that he'd spin out about, right? So that's not, but many perfection, and that's even in my Christian Perfectionist book, is that statement, be perfect, gets misinterpreted in their thinking. It becomes one of disturbance and not fruitful growth in your life. God is growing us up. That's what he's doing. Each of us. He's a father, so he's growing up his children. So we have battles we're going against. What God is doing is going, I'm going to grow you in this. You're going to learn how to grow. You're going to get strengthened. You're going to gain some healing. You're going to gain some freedom. You're going to learn things in the trenches. And that's because he's good. So before I close, let me just look at the super chats. Hold on. Heather Van Allen, I attended like the AG church but I get what you're saying. I'm learning to see through my distortions and think soberly. Awesome. And there may be people in your church that if you have OCD issues, they may not understand what you're going through. So you may bring a topic, go, I think I lost my salvation. And they'll be like, okay, we're going to help you get it back. All right. Mark DeJesus needs to jump in and go, stop. Arnold, what's up, brother? Before Christmas, I found a bump on my hand and probably was there just before I noticed. How do I have such high anxiety about it? Health anxiety is hard. Yeah, but it can be walked through and can be worked through. Beware of your compulsions. Beware of where you spin out to try to feel better. Let yourself go through the fear without trying to fix it. It takes practice. It takes work, but it can be done. Folks, this was great. It was a great time back. So sorry, Melissa couldn't be here, but she was in the chat. I think she still is. And we look forward to coming back. We'll plan on being back here together next Sunday. Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I may look at doing a live coming up soon on relationship OCD questions. So if you sent those in, check that out. I also have some new content I'll be working on this week. So pay attention to that. Love you all. It's great to be back. Happy 2025. Be loved. And Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. This is your brother from another mother, and hopefully my congestion will be better by the next time you hear from me. But I will be back with more insights for your healing and freedom journey. In the meantime, I'm out.